I never expected a cleaning lattice sacrifice to change my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was setting low, casting strange shadows in my cluttered apartment. I could hear the distant sirens, a haunting reminder of the chaos outside. My heart raced as I paced the small living room, unable to shake off the dread that wrapped around me like a vice. Nerves danced across my skin. I stared at the mess: discarded clothes, remnants of takeout, photographs scattered, memories twisted. I felt hollow. This wasn't how I imagined my life to be. I was suffocating under expectations. Shadows flickered across my mind, blending with the shadows in the room. Then she arrived. Marta, the cleaning lady, with an air of mystery. She seemed to glide in, a specter of unseen strength. I had hired her on a whim, a last-minute decision fueled by desperation. But in that moment, she was more than just a woman with a broom. There was something enigmatic about her, an aura that made my skin tingle. Her hands were rough but gentle. Her brown eyes, deep and knowing, whispered secrets as she surveyed the chaos I'd created. As she cleaned, I caught glimpses of her life. The way she dusted off old books, her fingers lingering on the spines like she was savoring every word. The radio played softly in the background, but it was her silence that spoke volumes. I could see the pain etched on her face, the sacrifices she made reflected in the burden she carried. That I couldn't help but wonder what stories lay behind her weary smile. Who was she really? The room became charged with unspoken truths as I watched her. In her presence, I felt exposed, yet oddly safe. I started to feel more alive, a flicker of hope igniting within me, but then things took a turn. I stumbled upon a faded letter tucked beneath a pile of old magazines. My heart seized as I read the words meant for someone else, words that revealed a hidden world of despair and betrayal. The message sent chills down my spine. I glanced up at Marta, and in that moment, recognition passed between us. A connection forged in unspoken pain. Just as I was about to confront her, the power flickered. The lights danced ominously before everything plunged into darkness. Heartbeats echoed. My breath quickened. I could barely see, but I could feel her presence close. Something shifted in the air. Was it fear or something deeper, something more profound? Then, a crash. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the silence, making my stomach churn. I stumbled back, adrenaline pumping. Was it an accident, or was someone or something trying to break in? Marta. I called out, my voice trembling. Was she still there? I felt a hand, warm yet firm, gripping my shoulder. A whisper in the darkness, trust me. With those words, a wave of courage surged within me. But what truth was I about to uncover? The night held its breath, waiting for the next twist. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness wrapped around us like a heavy cloak, muffling the outside world. My heart thundered in my chest as I strained to take in the faintest details: Marta's reassuring grip, the faintest whisper of the wind drifting through a cracked window, the echo of my own breath. Fear gripped me, but it was intertwined with an odd desire to know what lay beneath the layers of shadow and uncertainty. Marta, what was that? I managed to murmur, my voice cracking. The tension hung thick in the air, a palpable reminder that life could shift in an instant. She stepped back slightly, still keeping her hand on my shoulder, grounding me. You need to stay calm. It's nothing we can't handle, she assured me, but her voice held a tremor. We waited, listening for more sounds, each second dragging on like a lifetime. Then there it was, again a scuffle, followed by a soft thud. My pulse quickened at the suggestion of a threat lurking outside our fragile sanctuary. I forced myself to breathe, to quiet the raging storm of emotions threatening to consume me. Why don't we move to the hallway? Marta suggested quietly, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of my thoughts that I hesitated, flooded with a mix of reluctance and instinct. What about the door? She looked me straight in the eyes, her gaze fierce. Whatever it is, we're stronger if we face it together. The softness of her touch and the urgency in her words pushed against the fear, flooding me with a strange sense of trust. Reluctantly, I nodded and moved toward the doorway, pushing the threshold between the chaos of my lived reality and the unknown world outside. I could sense the air bristle around us as we positioned ourselves against the wall, waiting for the next sound, for the next clue to what was happening. There was an eerie stillness now. Then, Mariah's phone buzzed softly from her pocket, the light dimly illuminating her solemn face. "Do you want to check for help?" I asked, desperate for any route back to safety. No, she said firmly, a shadow crossing her face. "This isn't a call for help. Not yet. We have to be careful. My heart sank. What kind of danger was lurking outside? We remained quiet, listening intently, a shared understanding silently weighing heavy in the air. Then, as if the universe were conspiring against us, a loud crash came from behind the door, the sound of splintering wood sending echoes of dread rippling through me. Marta turned abruptly, her brow furrowed, her grip pulsing with newfound intensity. "Stay behind me," she said, taking a step toward the door. I felt the tremble in her body, and it confused met his woman. This cleaning lady who had blossomed into a source of quiet strength, was frightened too. The emotions began to intertwine in my heart. I was no longer just the broken person she found, but someone desperate to stand alongside her. Before I could respond, Marta wrenched the door open, and we were met with the blinding glare of the hallway lights. A figure loomed there, casting a long shadow across the floor, and my stomach tightened with fear. "Is anyone there?" It called, voice gravelly, tired. "I need help. Please." My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the trembling voice. It was Charlie, my neighbor from 2 doors down, a man I barely knew but who often waved when our paths crossed. He was wild-eyed and disheveled, a desperate plea etched into his features. I barely noticed Marta move beside me, her protective stance softening. "Charlie!" I exclaimed, stepping forward instinctively. "What happened?" He hesitated, looking between us, confusion flashing in his eyes. "There was an accident," he gasped, his voice faltering. "A fire. We need to get everyone out." Marta's gaze locked onto mine with a mixture of urgency and understanding, 2 strangers tangled in the web of shared weight we had yet to untangle. It was an unspoken bond, forged in the shadow of uncertainty. But at that moment, all I could think about was what was hidden in the depths of my apartment: the letter, the secrets that could unravel my reality even further. As Charlie stepped into our threshold, urgency pressing against the walls, I felt the night's darkness closing in on us again. The weight of our circumstances thundered in my ears. Would I help him? Or would the shadows of my past haunt me once more? Before I could descend into the confusion swirling around us, I caught sight of Marta, her expression steady and resolute. I wondered if we were about to stumble into a world of chaos together, friendship forged in the fires of uncertainty, or whether this was the precipice that would shatter the fragile bond we had begun to form. And then, as if on cue, a crashing wave of emotion surged through me, sending tremors through every fiber of my being. This journey was unfolding, and right then, I could not tell who would emerge strongest or the shadows that haunted us. I pressed my palms together, the heat of the moment closing in around us like a vice. "Charlie, are you sure it was a fire? How bad is it?" My voice, a nerve-riddled whisper, betrayed my fear. My mind raced with visions of chaos and destruction, images of recent news cycles playing behind my eyelids. A glance at Marta showed her determination, a fierce ember of protection still glowing through the cloud of uncertainty around us. "Yes," he replied, his voice cracking under the weight of his own fear. "It started on the lower floors. They said it spread quickly. The alarms people are trapped." "In the building?" I breathed, dread pulling my heart to depths untold. My apartment seemed to shrink around me, a cage that might soon hold nothing but despair. "Let's move," Marta commanded, her authority breaking through the fog that enshrouded my thoughts. She stepped past me, a beacon of resolve, shadows swirling around her like the smoke that threatened to engulf us. "We can't waste time, help is still out there." Charlie's eyes darted back to my face, pleading. "We need to get as many people out as we can. Others might be stuck." "Marta, wait," I said, panic surging through me. "I can't just leave my apartment. I have to get the vision of the letter." Its hidden truths searing through my mind, claimed me like a noose tightening around my throat. "Your letter. You can't think of that now," she said, a touch of annoyance coloring her voice. "This is life or death." "Stay close to me," Charlie insisted, looking at Marta with a mix of gratitude and sheer terror. "I can show you the way down." With reluctance pooling in my chest, I took a step forward, each movement heavy with the gravity of the moment. Where once I had put up walls, I saw them crumbling in the face of something larger: community, survival, purpose. It awoke something potent in me, although fear still flickered like a candle in the wind. Marta linked her arm with mine, grounding me. "Together," she said softly. "Just like we always said." At first, we moved cautiously, navigating the ruined corridor as the acrid scent of smoke reached my nostrils, each gust a reminder of the chaos unfolding in the world beyond our sanctuary. The lights in the ceiling flickered, ominous reminders of our fragile hope. Suddenly, a crash reverberated from the stairwell, a hand snaking down the banister. A small boy, his face streaked with soot, tumbled into view. "Help! My sister. She's up there." The petrified eyes of the child crystallized my fears, coaxing tears to the surface. That I felt Marta tense beside me, her protective instinct flaring to life like a match struck in darkness. "I'll go with him. You and Charlie wait safe until I get back," she declared, but I couldn't stay behind. "No, I can't let you do this alone," I spoke, trembling, the words spilling out unbidden. Despite my own trepidation, I stepped toward the boy. "Take us to her." He nodded, uncertainty in his gaze. I felt Marta's eyes on me, weighing my decision. "All right, but we move fast. We can't linger." As they led the way, the child grabbed my hand and squeezed it tight. I felt his heartbeat race against mine, and I drew strength from his desperation. The fear inside me morphed, becoming a fierce determination. I fought against the memories trying to overpower distant echoes of failure, isolation, but they felt distant now. "Be careful," Charlie called after us from the stairwell. "Don't go too far without backup." The boy led us up 2 flights, and with each echoing footstep, I thought of those left behind in darkness. Perhaps in helping others, I could glimpse redemption. But I also felt the weight of my own hidden burdens. The secrets in my apartment waited, lurking like specters, eager to emerge. When we reached the 3rd floor, the smoke grew thicker, a choking pall hanging in the air. A door swung shut in the gust of wind, but hesitation gripped me. What if the answers I sought lay inside my own home, the truths that threatened to redefine everything? "Inside. She's in there," the boy gasped, yanking on my sleeve, pulling me back to the present. I could hardly breathe. But not out of fear. It was the sweet potential of hope that almost suffocated me, blocking every rational thought. "Tell me her name," I managed, drawing in a deep breath before pushing the door open with bubbling courage. "Her name is Emily." Before I could utter another word, we stumbled through the haze of smoke into a small apartment, the walls painted in a frantic collage of colors. Pieces of furniture lay strewn about, the essence of a life once vibrant now clouded in disaster. In their midst, the girl lay on the ground, struggling against the choking smoke. My heart lurched, and I scrambled forward as more pieces of the world crumbled around me. It was a desperate race against time, drowning in emotions I couldn't quite surface from. As I reached for Emily, the sound of faint cries resonated through the air. In that moment of desperate racing, I truly felt the world spiraling out of control. And above it all, a chilling realization whispered back to me, unbidden, the secrets of my own past weren't the only burdens weighing down on us, Marta. I shouted, but my voice came out broken, shrouded amidst the chaos. As the smoke thickened, I groped in the darkness, hoping against hope that in reaching for this girl, I would somehow also reach for the fragments of my own story that still needed mending. But the deeper I ventured into the shadows, the more I sensed the darkness closing in, whispering doubts into my ear about everything I thought I knew, and then, with a deafening silence that dropped like a thunderclap, I heard a distant scream, raw and familiar, echoing through the walls. It shattered whatever fragile resolve I had left, pulling the breath from my lungs and leaving me vulnerable, hovering on the precipice of chaos and at the boundary of something I never could have expected to face. The urgency in the air pulsed like a heartbeat, heavy and rhythmic, as I fell to my knees beside little Emily. I pulled her against me, willing strength into her frail body, my hands fumbling and trembling as I cradled her head in my lap. Smoke stung my eyes, turning the world into a hazy watercolor painting of fear and desperation. I could hardly think, the shrieks around me blending into a symphony of sirens and chaos. I needed to get her out. Marta, where are you? I gasped, panic clawing at my throat. The smoke crept higher, like a predator waiting to swallow us whole. My heart raced with each fleeting moment I spent inside, suspended in uncertainty. Emily. The boy yelled, his voice quaking as he grabbed Emily's other arm, his small body shaking with fear. Get up. Please, we have to go. I gently shook her, willing her to respond. Emily, please. I implored, my voice thick with desperation. You have to fight. You must be strong. A soft moan escaped her lips, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite deep within me. That's it, sweetheart. We're going to get you out. I turned to the boy, my heart swelling with compassion for his bravery. We can do this together. We're not leaving anyone behind. As I lifted Emily's frail body, I felt the heavy weight of the world press down on my shoulders. The truth of it all pressed so stingingly against my chest. The boy's sister, the inferno that had awoken the answers I feared, everything I had run from now tangled in a desperate web of necessity. Then a sudden surge of warmth burst through the shutters of smoke, a fierce flicker amidst the encroaching darkness. I'm not leaving you behind. The determined voice rang out, and I turned to see Marta materializing from the haze, her expression fierce, radiating an unyielding resolve as she hurried toward us. Oh, thank God. I exclaimed, relief flooding through me like cool water. I grasped Emily tighter, my heart a storm of emotion as I somehow felt that this moment, right here, could shift something deep within me. It was as if, in facing this terrifying fire, I began to understand what it meant to truly connect, to forge bonds that transcended burden. That we need to go. Marta yelled, urgency slicing through the chaotic noise. She moved beside me, bracing herself as she pulled Emily into her own arms, and for a brief second, I felt our intertwining destinies weave a fragile thread of camaraderie, one of us refusing to falter, united in our desire to protect the innocent. With Marta leading the way, the path became a maze of destruction. I glanced over my shoulder, the shadows of our past crashing against the present, a blend of selfishness and longing wrestling inside me. The letter, its forgotten weight, tugged at my soul even now, but guilt and fear paled against the rising need to save this girl. Keep moving. Marta shouted, her powerful voice guiding us toward the stairwell. Just as we reached the landing, another crash reverberated above us, reverberating with a threat that sent chills racing down my spine. The air grew heavy, thick with the knowledge that time was slipping through our fingers. That I squeezed Emily's hand, urging her to keep her eyes open. I whispered sweet words of encouragement, promising her safety, telling her everything would be fine when she reached outside the inferno that sought to consume us. But with every step, dread began to weave a different tapestry. We can't stop, can we? I murmured to Marta, the weight of the world beginning to settle heavily between us. Never, she stated firmly, her eyes alight with fierce urgency. With that single affirmation, we pressed forward, the echo of the boy's cries urging us onward, fueling my determination. But then it came the sound of another scream, this time shattering the air like glass, deep and visceral, slicing through the haze with cold precision. Charlie. Terror bloomed within me as recognition struck deep. Charlie. I yelled, but the cry felt swallowed by the encroaching smoke, lost within the whirlwind of chaos and destruction that morphed around us. Marta halted, her expression faltering, her hands tightening around Emily instinctively. "We can't go back," she stated, though her voice trembled with uncertainty. "But we have to." My heart ached, each frantic pulse hammering against the pit of helplessness. The thought of leaving Charlie in danger felt unbearably wrong. A deep yearning pulsed through Mennett just for his safety, but for connection, for the bonds we were building, and the final threads weaving my heart into something fragile but beautiful. "Listen." Marta turned, grasping my shoulders firmly. "If we don't get them out, all of this will be for nothing. We can't save everyone. We can't. We must protect Emily, and ourselves." The cries continued, resounding with despair, a haunting chorus that twisted my insides. I battled against the pull of sympathy and fear. "Charlie is one of us." The words erupted from me, a raw and desperate protest. "We can't walk away. We can't just leave him." Marta's eyes flickered with hesitation, the weight of our choices hanging thick in the air. The crackling of flames echoed in the distance, growing louder, a sinister reminder of the fire threatening to consume everything we held dear. "Fine," Marta replied, her voice lifting defiantly against the rising fear. "We go for him, and we bring him back. But we do it quick. I don't have time to waste." That I nodded, heart pounding with renewed determination. Together, we bolstered ourselves to forge deeper into the darkened remains of our lives. But the walls were crumbling around us, and just as we turned back toward the sound of Charlie's voice, another rallying scream pierced the air, unmistakable and haunting. That it echoed just above the din, reverberating into the depths of my very soul. And in that moment, reality came crashing down around me. I had yet to uncover the darkest secrets of my own past, and the truth could wield its own peril. As Marta and I exchanged a knowing glance, we charged toward the sound echoing in the smoke, together yet unmoored, our past merging with a present fraught with both peril and unexpected hope, hope that no matter how deep the darkness, even a small ember could ignite flames of courage. Yet even as I held on to that flicker, I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that an even greater revelation awaited Yuson that could unravel everything I had ever believed. The haze enveloped us, the acrid scent of smoke mingling with the bitter taste of fear that coated my tongue. As Marta and I surged forward, the blaring alarm within my mind crescendoed to a piercing scream that matched the chaos around us. Charlie's name lingered like a prayer in my heart, a potent reminder of all that I had come to care about in this surreal nightmare. "Charlie!" I called out again, my voice hoarse yet fragile, swallowed almost instantly by the roar of the flames that danced along the path ahead. Marta's hand gripped mine tightly, her knuckles pale as we navigated through the smoky corridors of hell. Every step felt heavy, the weight of decision making me falter. I desperately wanted to cling to hope, wanted to believe that this act of searching would yield answers. However, the darkness that loomed ahead whispered doubts, gnawing at my resolve. What if we're too late? I thought, the dread creeping in like an unwelcome shadow. Marta paused, her back tightening like a bowstring. "This way," she said, voice resolute as she turned. I followed without hesitation, propelled by an instinct that chose solidarity over fear. It was as if the very act of moving forward alone lightened the burden in my heart, allowing flickers of strength to emerge amid the turbulence that we pressed deeper, our breaths shallow and labored, the oppressive heat clawing at our backs as burning debris threatened to fall. Each sound, the crackling flames, the distant cries cut through the fabric of our reality, a harrowing reminder of the stakes. "Please, let him be okay," I whispered, not sure if I was praying to a deity I had long since lost faith in or just trying to calm the rising tide of despair within me. My heart thudded heavily against my ribs as I contemplated what losing him would mean. Somewhere in the distance, another heart-wrenching scream sliced through the air, one that shattered my feeble hope. I squeezed my eyes shut for a brief moment, willing that sound to be a figment of my worst imagination, wishing to wake from this shared nightmare. When I opened them again, Marta had taken the lead, determination etched across her face as she maneuvered us around a fallen beam. "Can you hear that?" She tilted her head slightly, urgency morphing into focus. I strained to listen for any trace of Charlie's voice, the yearning almost palpable. My heart was a drum in my chest, each beat urging me to shout out again. Yet, the culmination of despair pulled back fiercely, equal parts caution and yearning mixing in a volatile concoction. Suddenly, we reached a room bathed in orange light, the glow illuminating flickering shadows at unusual angles. There, at the center, lay a large slab where the ceiling had given way. The sight made my throat tighten. "Charlie!" I called out, hoping against reason that he might respond. "Help! Someone!" A muffled voice broke through, and adrenaline surged through my veins like wildfire. It was him. Every fiber of my being screamed for action as I rushed toward the collapsing structure, anxiety swirling like a tornado. "Charlie!" I shouted, while Marta began clearing debris. "Hold on. We're coming." Her voice was a lifeline, a tether anchoring me against the chaos. My breaths came quicker now, aware of the danger pressing in around us. With each item I tossed aside, I felt the weight of Emily's life in my mind, reminding me that we were not just fighting for one person. This wasn't just a rescue mission for Charlie or me, but for Emily and the boy who needed us both. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard a faint whimper, and my heart soared. "I'm here," I declared, straining to uncover the last remnants of wreckage, driven by the bond that had blossomed amidst the turmoil. "Please get me out." He managed to choke out, his voice wavering like the flames that surrounded us. There was panic embedded within each word, and empathy ignited a fierce resolution inside me. "We will," I vowed, committing to release him from this tempest we had all been swept into. "Just a bit more, Charlie. Hold on." Marta and I worked in synchrony, a dance steeped in urgency. It felt so surreal, this juncture where fear could bleed into something paradoxically beautiful, the concept of togetherness, of risking it all for one another. As we finally pulled aside the last of the debris, a small figure emerged, coated in soot and ash. The familiar contours of Charlie's face struck me like a bolt of lightning. I grabbed him, wrapping my arms around him fiercely, holding tight against the edges of reality that threatened to unravel us. "Charlie!" I gasped, relief flooding my senses. "Emily!" Charlie gasped, scanning for her, desperation poised to spill over like a tide. "Emily is with us," Marta assured, voice softening. In that moment, the horror of our situation nearly melted away, exchanged momentarily for the warmth brewing in our collective resolve, but reality came crashing back like an avalanche. Even as we pieced ourselves together, the building groaned around us, stability shifting as walls buckled. "We need to go. Now," I urged, urgency returning like a wave crashing back into the depths. Yet, just as we turned to escape, realization struck me with brutal force. "No!" Charlie cried, glancing back at the flickering shadows. "I can't leave without her." I felt the gut-wrenching panic rise anew, the faces of the others pushing against the walls of my mind. "We can't linger, Emily needs us." "Well, get her." But each word clawed at me, a tether to full clarity, a reality I couldn't ignore. The fire swept closer, ravenously consuming everything in its path while I was tethered, positioned between saving Emily and the peril that kissed our heels. Just then, from deep within the wake of smoke and flame, I saw a glimpse of Emily's tan shirt, fluttering like a distress signal. "Marta!" I cried, recognition smashing into reality stark and cold. Before I could grasp the situation fully, decisions twisted through my consciousness like gnarly roots bursting from the ground. A moment of silence stitched together our breaths in disbelief. The weight of what I was about to do bore heavily down on me like the fires themselves that we had a choice to make. Save ourselves, or risk it all once more. But a shocking revelation reverberated through the air. A figure emerged from the smoke, eyes glazed but determination etched across their face. I blinked through the haze, heart racing as if time itself had ensnared reason. "Just go, leave me." The voice called, haunting yet familiar that I could not process it fast enough. "Marta, someone else is here." But she turned to me, disbelief lurking just beneath her skin. "We can't." And it hit me like a thunderbolt. The voice belonged to someone I never expected to find, someone who could change everything once more. A single twist of fate loomed heavily above us, crashing down and forcing me to simmer in uncertainty. Who would we save first? And what secrets would be revealed in this desperate moment, as the flames danced around us, whispering remnants of forgotten truths we were all bound to confront? The smoke thickened around us, a living entity with its own will, as we stood frozen, the weight of our predicament night heavy. I felt the heat of the flames creeping closer, an oppressive reminder that time was a merciless adversary. Emily's image lingered in my mind, a lifeline pulling at every corner of my being, making me acutely aware of the urgency of the choice before me. Just go, leave me. The voice rang out again, deep and resonant amidst the chaos, shaking me to my core. Recognition flooded in, along with disbelief, as I took a small step forward. Ms. Reynolds. I strained to call out, the name feeling foreign and intimate all at once. The cleaning lady, the shadowy figure who had once scurried through the halls with her mop and bucket, now stood there, embers dancing upon her clothes, fear mingling with an undeniable spark of bravery. "I'll hold them back," she shouted through the thick fog of smoke, determination painted on her grimy face. "Can't let the flames take you. Go." Marta's fingers curled involuntarily around my wrist, a tether to reality, her eyes wide with horror and confusion. "No. We can't just leave her." But each heartbeat unleashed a silent war within my chest. Ms. Reynolds' words echoed in my mind, a sacrifice, a desperate plea that hit harder than the flames pressing at our backs. We were afforded a moment, raw in its gravity, where choices blossomed like roses among thorns, each one sharp, each one painful. "Charlie. Go with Marta. I'll find Emily, I promise." I half turned, wanting to bolt forward, to make sense of this new revelation. "I'm not leaving you," he gasped, eyes wide with the kind of fear that wraps its tendrils around your heart, tightens, and eventually crushes it. "But the time for choices is over. You need to trust me. I will find you," I yelled, conviction resolute in my voice even as my heart wrenched at the very thought of separation. Marta shook her head emphatically. "What if you don't come back? We can't risk losing you too." "I can't lose her," I countered, urgency igniting my resolve. "If you stay here with me, we risk it all. You know that. We can't sacrifice the others just for one person." A flicker of understanding crossed Marta's features, though the lines of worry that etched her brow remained carved deep. "Okay, then let's go together. We'll find her together." My mind raced as I fought against the constraints of time, weighing every option like a scale tipping dangerously to one side. But Ms. Reynolds stood firmly amidst the chaos, heroic in her resolve even as the flames began to twist dangerously close. "You can't save everyone," she shouted, her voice infused with a sudden strength. "But you can save the ones you love. Go. Go now." My pulse quickened, each heartbeat wrestling with indecision. I shot a glance towards the entrance where safety beckoned, a world beyond the flames, beyond this hellscape we had found ourselves imprisoned in. "Charlie, listen to her. Let's take the chance." "No." His voice quaked with the force of desperation. "But if you help her, you might. It's her choice." I faced Charlie, longing for him to understand, to see that in this tumultuous moment, we were at the precipice between bravery and cowardice. A choice had to be made. The air grew thicker, electric with fear and urgency. The flames delighted in their dance, pushing forward with greedy hands, illuminating our reality as we fought against the clock. It was clear that every second counted, urgency clawing at the edges of my sanity. Just as I took a definitive step toward Ms. Reynolds, a crash echoed through the room, a seismic shift that rattled the very ground beneath us. The walls trembled, a cacophony of destruction rushing forward fast enough to obliterate any notions of hesitation. "Now!" Ms. Reynolds bellowed, her head shifting toward where hope lay. "Emily." An ineffable strength emanated from her, tinged with the knowledge of what this choice could mean. She nodded slightly, a silent farewell that merged desperation with purpose, and suddenly, it felt as if we had stepped into a script already written, an unchangeable fate. "Go. With a surge of adrenaline, I swept Charlie and Marta forward, almost shoving them into the gaping maw of the escape route, my own resolve serving as the anchor against the tide of fear. I turned back one last time. "We'll come back for you. Don't give up." But as I forced myself to move, the roar of the flames drowned my plea, weaving it into silence. My heart felt like lead, pulling me back even as my mind screamed for action. I knew we had to escape, had to find Emily first, but the look on Ms. Reynolds' face etched itself into my memory, anchoring guilt that would cling to me like a second skin. Once outside, the world felt eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the inferno we had left behind. The cool air bit at my skin, yet it welcomed me as if offering solace for the soul. We stumbled onto the pavement, the brightness of streetlights dazzlingly blinding after the oppressive darkness. "Emily," I called, anguish lacing my voice. "Where are you?" Marta and Charlie gripped my hands, their eyes wild with panic. The fear of the unknown twisted within me, each unanswered question spiraling across the canvas of my thoughts, painting a haunting picture of uncertainty. Just as hope began to flicker in that cold wind, a sudden crack, the sound of cracking concrete, followed by a ground-shaking explosion rumbled from deep within the confines of the building. A cloud of smoke billowed high, racing skyward, as shock waves reverberated through the ground beneath my feet, knocking us off balance. In that deafening moment, something shifted within me. A horror began to claw its way forth. "No!" I gasped, realization wrenching at my heart as I recognized the pulse of desperation that seeped through the crackling air. And then, amidst the chaos, emerged a figure from the smoke. I could barely register if it was miraculous or a cruel illusion, but the moment felt frozen in time. Someone I hadn't expected, yet a face that held a past I could not escape. My breath caught, heart in my throat, as the truth unveiled its jagged edges and whispered the name I feared the most, shaking the foundations of every choice we had made thus far. "Why are you here?" I breathed, panic clawing at my throat. And as the shadows danced around us, uncertainty lingered, entwined in the complexities of salvation. Everything I thought I knew was about to change forever. The figure emerged, half hidden in the smoke, and for a moment my heart danced between hope and despair. The world around me closed in, muffling the screams and chaos that echoed in my ears. My mind struggled to catch up, grappling with the identity of the shadow now stepping into the harsh light. "Lucas." My voice cracked on the name, disbelief washing over me like a wave. The last time I had seen him, the painful goodbye still etched into the very fibers of my being, felt like an eternity ago, had been everything to me once, my anchor during turbulent times, a friend forged from the fires of shared trauma. But the memory of our severed ties came rushing back like a cold current, sharp and unyielding. "What are you doing here?" "There was a fire," he answered, voice low and strained. His eyes, however, lit up with a fierce determination that carried an echo of the person I once knew. "I heard something, and I came," he faltered, anguish cracking his demeanor, loyalty battling against personal demons that haunted him. In that moment, it was as if the world stood still. The flames flickered and licked higher, hungry for life and clarity, while my heart wrestled with the tumult of emotions surging within me. Betrayal, nostalgia, longing, a cocktail of memories that colored every heartbeat. "Where's Emily?" I asked, urgency unfurling like a forgotten map. My mind raced. I couldn't afford to dwell on old resentments when lives were still in the balance. Lucas hesitated, eyes darting to the ground, fisting his hands at his sides as if gathering the courage to confront the weight of reality. "I don't know. Was hoping you would." The air thickened with uncertainty, almost suffocating. Marta grabbed my hand tighter, her eyes a storm of fear and hope. "We need to find her. We can't leave her in there." "Then we need a plan," Charlie urged, his voice suddenly steady, cutting through the emotional fog that enveloped me. "Connect to the fire department. They're coming. We've got to know." I shouted, interrupting his rational thinking. Each word dripped with a desperate need to act, yet the very essence of that choice gnawed at my gut. "We can't wait. Emily's still in there. We have to go back now." Lucas' gaze softened, but there was a flicker of something dark touching the edges of his eyes. "You can't go back in there. The flames, the smoke, it's too dangerous." Every second we waste could cost her more than just time, Marta added, her voice trembling yet unwavering. Even if we go in as a group and split UPI can help, Lucas interjected, taking a cautious step forward. I know the layout. I was part of the crew that did the renovations last year. But my heart screamed for a suspicion I couldn't shake off. You think you're just going to waltz back in there with us? I stepped forward, confronting him, the walls I'd so carefully constructed rush crumbling. Last time I trusted you, it blew up in my face. The tension in the air was thick, punctuated by the ominous growl of flames threatening to consume everything. My hands shook as I glanced back toward the burning building, torn between anger and the desperate need to believe he could help. Silence stretched between us, thick as the smoke coiling above our heads. But then, the unexpected Creekdopina promise of kindness bloomed amid our despair. Let's at least look for a way back inside, Charlie declared, resolute and surprisingly brave. We have to try. For Emily, and somehow, that simple phrase bound us together, awash in a stubborn resolve amid growing uncertainty. As we ventured sideways along the perimeter of the building, the heat would flare up, and the very air we breathed felt toxic, clinging to our skin like a shroud of despair. But a flicker of hope shimmered within the atrocities. As we rounded a corner, the faint outline of a side entrance appeared against the distortion of flames. Here! Lucas exclaimed, his tone lifting slightly, though I could sense the underlying fear trembling beneath the surface. I glanced at Marta and Charlie, faces set with determination but tinged with the gnawing fear of what awaited beyond those doors. My heart thumped heavily, questions spiraling. Was I making a grave mistake trusting him? Would loyalty always betray love? The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, and I knew we had little time left. So many lives hung in the balance. With a fierce inhale, I placed my hand on the door handle, ready to plunge into the chaos once more. The rush of adrenaline surged as I gripped it tightly, the metallic cold sending shivers down my spine. And just before I pushed it open, my eyes met Lucas's, searching for stability in a moment that teetered precariously on the edge of insurmountable danger. Promise me, I said, voice bare, you won't back down this time. That he nodded slowly, sincerity glistening in his eyes, as if we were suspended between the echoes of our past and the urgency of our present, forging an alliance born from necessity, and perhaps, a flicker of lingering trust. That I pushed open the door, smoke billowing out like a vengeful ghost, and stepped into the inferno. The screams of distant sirens mingled with the roar of the flames, swallowing my heart whole. Every step forward felt heavier, every breath weighed down with uncertainty. The chaos dimmed and a bark of laughter bubbled from within the darkness ahead. My heart plummeted. And then, as we pushed farther into the belly of the beast, a new revelation emerged, something utterly unexpected. Look! Charlie shouted, pointing to a silhouette further down the corridor, a figure draped amidst the smoke and flickering shadows. Emily! But before I could rush forward, the ground trembled beneath us again, fractured and unstable, threatening to devour everything whole. The walls buckled inward with a loud groan, shattering our fragile resolve, and I felt the room spinning. Faith turned to fear in an instant. Get back! Lucas roared, pulling me close just as the ceiling gave way, obscuring my view of Emily and plunging us into utter darkness. The last lingering thought whispered in my mind before everything imploded around us was a haunting question: was saving one worth sacrificing many? And as the dust settled, uncertainty roared back to life, and I found myself crushed between shattered dreams and barely reprieved hope. The air felt heavy with sorrow, the sharp contrast of life and death lingering as I blinked into the darkness, gasping for breath. In that moment, time stretched infinitely, each heartbeat thrusting agony through my veins. I grasped at the remnants of hope, feeling it slip through my fingers like grains of sand. Is everyone okay? Charlie's voice cut through, though it sounded distant, muffled by the rubble that now separated us from the world outside. I can't see anything. Marta cried, her voice barely concealing the panic coursing through her. Lucas, what do we do? In the suffocating silence, despair began to seep into the cracks of my heart. I thought of Emily, the laughter we'd shared, the warmth of her friendship. I couldn't let that flicker dim. Emily! I shouted, my voice echoing in the void, desperately folding into the unfathomable ravine of smoke that clouded our minds. Emily. Lucas joined in, his tone raw, clinging to our frantic hope like a lifeline. But the shadows held their secrets tight, mocking our calls with an oppressive stillness that threatened to eclipse our very existence. We need to move. My instincts screamed. There could be an exit somewhere. If we just before I could finish, I felt a sudden push from behind, pinning me against the unforgiving wall of debris. It was Charlie, his face pale, eyes wide with terror. Get down! He cried just as a low rumble rolled through the concrete tunnel around us, reverberating deep enough to rattle our bones. Darkness folded around us like a shroud, and I clutched Lucas' arm in a last desperate grasp. Please don't let us die here, but racing through my mind was a realization that resonated louder than any scream: we were running out of time. Lifting my voice, I forced the words between ragged breaths: we can't give up. Emily is still alive, I know she is. Lucas nodded, a fierce glimmer igniting in his eyes despite the fear that threatened to swallow us whole. Then we find her. We just need to stay together. With that solemn promise grounding me, I focused through the chaos, feeling for the faintest trace of warmth amidst the decay. If we were to escape this nightmare and find Emily, every ounce of strength would need to bubble to the surface. Follow my voice. I called, my heart pounding with urgency. We need to find the nearest exit, or somewhere we can call for help. As we shifted through the wreckage, I could hear the distant wail of sirens still echoing in the grim vale outside, offering a sweet reminder that we weren't completely alone in this current of despair. Their echoes reminded me of laughter, of the simpler moments shared with my friends, and of Emily's brilliant smile. Glancing around, we maneuvered blindly over jagged edges and grim remnants, until Charlie let out a hoarse cry. This way! Pushing forward against the heaviness, we followed him through a makeshift path. My fingers grazed over cracked wood and stubborn pipes as I attempted to stay oriented, squinting against the oppressive fumes that threatened to claim our breath. Then, the familiar sound hit, mesomething delicate intertwined with the chaos, rising above the crackling fire and anguish. A child's laughter. My heart skipped, and my stomach twisted in knots. Could it really be Emily? Did you hear that? I asked, my voice a fervent whisper. Everyone paused, our breaths mingling and held in a unity of shared hope. It's coming from the east side. Charlie said, eyes wide, dread dancing in the corners. We need to go. Fast. Without another thought, we pressed forward through sheer instinct, adrenaline fueling our movements, feet pounding against scorched wood and debris as we navigated the ruins. As we neared the sound, the walls trembled again, groaning and shifting, threatening to cast us once more into the depths of despair. But we pressed on, the laughter ringing louder, merging with the fading feeling of safety we held on to so tightly. Keep going. I urged, the weight of hope intertwining with fear, pushing us further and further through the shadows, and just as we rounded a corner, a slither of light broke. Through the darkened haze, illuminating a small figure huddled against the wall, her small frame silhouetted against the flames licking dangerously close. Emily! I screamed, vowing to break any barrier that lay between us. But in that moment, shadows stirred where light flickered, and an ominous figure emerged, blocking my path. I froze as the reality unfolded into sharp Clarissa figure I never expected to see again. Lucas, I breathed, the warmth in my chest from the hope of saving Emily overshadowed by an unresolved animosity. What are you doing? He stepped closer, his features urgent yet unyielding. We have to leave. Now. I shook my head, raw panic clawing at my throat. We can't leave her, and as the laughter shifted, giving way to a muffled stillness, an unavoidable truth crashed over me like ice water. What if Emily wasn't just a victim caught in the flames? What if we had lost her the moment we stepped into this life-threatening chaos? Each breath became a prayer, and I felt the walls close in again, the dark edge mercilessly threatening to destroy everything I held dear. Would I stumble once more into the embrace of betrayal, or could the truth forge a path I never thought possible? The flickering fear clung to me tightly as I took one last look at the devastating inferno encroaching in every corner, me heart torn between salvation and destruction. The weight of the rubble pushed on my chest as I stood frozen, my heart racing. Lucas had always been a constant in my life, someone who understood my deepest fears yet had become entangled in a web of altercations I never thought we would have to navigate. He was my brother in arms, yet now stood between me and the one glimmer of hope that could reunite my fading memories. Lucas, please. My voice cracked as I stepped forward, the despair churning violently within me. We can't leave her. What if she needs us? He shook his head, his hands reaching out as if he wanted to grasp hold of reason, of clarity. Emily is just a child, and we don't have time. If we don't get out now, we may not see daylight again. You know it's true, but how could he know? How could he understand the depth of my connection to her, the bond that had been nurtured through innocence and laughter? The laughter, still echoing in my mind, felt like a thread woven through my soul, delicate yet undeniably strong. No matter the cost, I wouldn't let it unravel. As I glanced past Lucas, I could see that the small figure huddled against the wall was no longer moving. The flames danced menacingly closer, their heat radiating with a hostile ferocity. I could smell the acrid smoke, feel its fingers wrapping around my throat, and my choice became crystal clear in that bitter moment. Charlie, Marta, take Lucas and go. I urged, my tone a whispered plea against the backdrop of disaster. I have to get Emily. Lucas' eyes widened, incredulity swirling behind them. No. We stick together, damn it, Lucas. We can't. The words were raw, tearing themselves free as I gestured toward the small silhouette. Time was slipping like the grains of sand I had once held helplessly. She's our friend. We can't abandon her, and with that, I darted past him, adrenaline flooding through my veins. I could hear the protests from behind me but remained focused on the figure in the light, a guiding star against the darkness. Emily. The word was no longer just a name, it was a promise, a hope tethered to the purest moments of my life. I rushed toward her, desperation propelling me through the scattered debris, each pulse of my heart echoing against the terror surrounding us. As I reached her side, I knelt down, heart pounding with worry. Emily. It's me, it's Lucas. I brushed my fingers against her cheek, finding it cold and smeared with ash. Her eyes were closed, and for a moment, panic seized me as the world darkened just outside the edges of vision. But then, like the flame fighting through the dark, her eyelids fluttered open. Lucas. Her voice was a whisper, bare and fragile, trembling beneath the weight of her fear. I am here, I'm here. I urged, gathering her into my arms, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth and bravery. We need to get out. Can you walk? Is everyone here? She murmured, blinking through the haze. We were playing. My heart sank at her innocence, the cruel reminder of a world stolen from her. Everyone's trying to get to safety, I pressed, my voice thick with urgency. We just need to leave. Charlie and Marta are waiting for us. Sudden tremor interrupted me, a warning that sent vibrations through the ground and tears in the walls around us. My instincts screamed at me that we had to leave, that time was not on our side, but as I began to lift her, the figure of Lucas appeared behind us, his expression a mix of frustration and fear. What are you doing? We need to run. I felt Emily's small hands clutching my shirt, her grip like a whisper of trust. I'm scared, Lucas. He nodded, and for a moment, I saw the protective brother in him emerge. Then we will be brave together, all right. Tension coiled tight in the air as the flames flickered closer, licking dangerously at our heels. I could see the uncertainty etched on Emily's face, and I reached down to squeeze her hand, fighting to infuse her with strength. Let's move, now. I commanded, but as I turned, the ground beneath us shook violently, cascading pieces of concrete down from overhead, and just like that, darkness overshadowed our flickering hope. It all happened in an instant. The world blurred as I felt a crash of weight, and then stillness. I blinked against the dust swirling around me, desperate to see Emily and Lucas. My heart raced, dread flooding through my veins as shadows began to reclaim our little group. Lucas. Emily. I called, my voice muffled by the growing chaos. Panic bubbled as I started to crawl through the debris, hands searching frantically for the warmth of Emily's small frame, for Lucas' steady presence, and then, just like that, a small, bright hand grasped mine. "Lucas?" she whispered, trembling, her voice so small, so frightened, that it shattered my resolve like glass. Holding tight, I fought against the shadows closing in. "I'm here, I'm right here." But in that moment, the crushing noise of a final collapse echoed around us, drowning out our voices, swallowing our cries in despair, and with it, the shards of my faith crumbled into darkness. Then I heard an unmistakable sound of footsteps and a voice that was both foreign and familiar weaving through the chaos. I squinted, vision blurred with swirling dust, as a shadow loomed near. "Is anyone there?" The voice was stronger than the others, breaking through the tremor and fear, yet as I shifted closer, an icy realization gripped me. In that singular moment of recognition, a chill ran through my spine. It was someone I had not seen in years, a face I never expected to find amidst the ashes of this nightmare. The shadows surrounding me flickered as the outline of a figure stepped into view, and time itself seemed to pause. "Is anyone there?" The voice broke through the din, steady and resolute despite the chaos swirling around us. My breath caught in my throat, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Derek, his presence ignited a whirlwind of emotions, memories flooding my mind like a broken dam. Derek was once the anchor in my stormy seas, a confidant whose laughter had echoed against the darkest moments of my life. But life had swept us apart, each of us buried in our own scars. "What are you doing here?" I croaked, bewildered that I heard the alarms. "I was passing by, thought I could maybe," he faltered, taking in the devastation around us. But the fleeting glimmer of hope in his eyes sparked something deep inside me, a fire long thought to be extinguished. "Where's everyone, Charlie?" "Emily." The names tumbled from my lips, desperation welling up in my chest. "They're trapped in here. You have to help me." My words came out in frantic bursts, the threat of time looming like the oppressive heat around us. "Get behind me," Derek commanded, the assertiveness returning to his voice as he rushed forward through the wreckage, a mantle of determination draped over his shoulders. "I've got you." With each step he took, revelations clawed at the edges of my heart. I had spent years feeling abandoned, wishing for closure, yet here he was standing amidst the chaos as if fate had conspired to reignite our shared past, but frustration gnawed at me alongside the gratitude. "We can't waste time," I urged as he began clearing debris. "Emily is in Haresh's, just a child. We have to get to her, focus on one thing at a time," he replied firmly. "We'll find Emily. I promise." And as though the universe had heard our pleas, a small voice broke through the cacophony. "Help!" Emily called from behind a boulder of rubble, her voice small yet fierce enough to shatter the weight of despair heavy on my heart. "I can't move, Emily," I yelled, heart racing as relief flooded my system. I moved instinctively, pushing past Derek and Charlie, each heartbeat urging me forward. The shadows felt lighter as I moved towards her cries, and as I reached the pile of debris, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose surge through my veins. A hand grasped mine, Emily's fragile fingers lacing around my wrist. "I'm here," I gasped, pulling her closer. "You're okay." Her tiny body was trembling under the weight of fear and ash, but the warmth of her presence enveloped me, igniting a fierce determination. "We need to get out of here. Can you walk?" "To think so," she stammered, bravely attempting to push herself to her feet. I felt a rush of pride wash over me. "Just lean on me," I soothed, wrapping an arm around her frail shoulders. As we moved forward, the very air thickened with smoke, insistent reminders of the danger pressing in all around us. Charlie and Derek hurried to create an escape path, lifting chunks of debris and guiding us through the maze of destruction. "Quickly, follow us," Charlie encouraged, his voice steady amidst the turmoil, but as we ventured further, cracking wood and groaning structures foretold the impending collapse. I felt the world shift, felt the fear pricking at my resolve. And then came a deafening roar, the ceiling above giving way. We barely had time to react, our bodies throwing themselves instinctively toward the nearest opening. Emily cried out, slipping from my grasp as I reached for her. "Emily!" I screamed, heart racing as I lunged for her, my mind racing with all the what-ifs that enveloped me. Derek's hand found mine, steadying me as I caught her in my embrace, our eyes locking in a shared understanding of survival. With a surge of adrenaline, we scrambled forward, barreling through the smoke, our hearts pounding dangerously hard in the shadows. "We've got this!" Derek shouted, his voice fierce against the raging flames that sought to steal our hope. And as we broke into a small opening that led outside, I felt the sweet kiss of fresh air invading my lungs. But just as we broke free from the inferno, the sound of an explosion roared in the distance, shattering the fragile moment. The ground shook beneath us, but I stood resolute, refusing to allow fear to suffocate the essence of that moment. We collapsed on the pavement outside, the cool night air wrapping around us like a bomb against the chaos of flames swallowed behind. I clutched Emily tightly, pulling her into my embrace as if to shield her from the world. And in that moment, as laughter drifted in from nearby rescuers who clutched their own loved ones in shared reprieve, tears streamed down my cheeks for all we had almost lost and for the memories that still lingered beneath the surface. I glanced at Derek, our eyes locking in recognition, a display of understanding forged in that fire-fueled chaos. And as we caught our breaths, I spoke the words that felt like the weight of a lifetime lifted from my heart. "I'm sorry for everything," I whispered, the regrets tumbling forth, carving pathways once more into the fabric of connection. He nodded, a tender smile breaking through the anguish. "Me too. But we're here now, together. We made it." As sirens wailed louder, marking the renewal of safety, a soft voice interjected between us. "Can we stay together?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with innocence, a shimmering hope igniting the air among us. "Always," I promised, squeezing her small hand. "Together." And as the sun began to rise, painting the sky with hues of promise, I held my breath at the thought of what was coming. Perhaps healing would bloom from our shared pain, trust could mend the fragmented ties of our lives, and the beauty of forgiveness might light the path forward. With every heartbeat, I felt the depth of connection transform the remnants of our past into something infinitely stronger, a bond no fire could destroy. Then, reflecting on everything we had endured, I realized in that sweet moment a powerful truth: after all the shadows and despair, love remains the most powerful force, one that could rise triumphant from the ashes of pain, forever brightening the darkness. And for the first time in ages, I understood that together, we would emerge into the light. And as I uttered those words, the final, echoing truth escaped my lips: love finds a way, even through fire.